Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Ladino, and I'm a professor in the English department at the University of Idaho, where I focus on the environmental humanities, American literature, and affect studies. As the climate crisis intensifies, the main insight I want to share with educators is that we should distinguish between fear and its related emotions, especially anxiety and worry, because these emotions can be motivating. Most of the research on fear dismisses it as an unhelpful obstacle, something to overcome, usually by way of hope or another positive emotion. If you've listened to Sarah Jaquette Ray's talk or read her excellent new book, you've heard some of the valid concerns about fear. But I think the jury's still out. When I read climate change fiction with my students, novels like Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower or Cormac McCarthy's The Road, in which horrible things happen, my students said they appreciated feeling the intense fear these texts inspired in them. They felt afraid too rarely, they said, and it helped them to be more concerned about climate change. In my interdisciplinary research on fear, I found that what might be true of it as a basic emotion, that it's a fight, flight, or freeze response, that it's paralyzing or fundamentally conservative, that it doesn't promote long-term engagement, might not be true of other related but distinct emotions, specifically anxiety and worry. These are future-oriented, anticipatory emotions that endure over time. And while it's certainly true that too much anxiety is bad for individuals' mental and emotional health, several sociological studies, including one I'm currently working on, have studied that, or suggested rather, that worry can inspire environmental action, provided that worry is not too mild or too intense. I've seen firsthand in community conversations about climate change how fear can spark a light bulb moment that helps a skeptical person or a young person or a privileged person to connect the dots between, for example, intense wildfire smoke in our hometowns and the global climate crisis. I'm also working with a team of sociologists to study climate skepticism, and we're finding that even some skeptics have a high degree of worry about specific impacts of climate change, things like pollution, extreme weather, and species extinction. Our data also supports what several other studies have suggested, that worry correlates strongly with environmental concern and policy support. Worry doesn't just signify concern about a threat, it also identifies particular objects, and it's a form of care. Worry might also be less stressful on individuals than long-term anxiety. So while I don't consider fear to be the optimal emotional outcome for pedagogy, I'm not saying we should aim to terrify our students. I do think that for some students, namely those who are privileged enough to afford skepticism, a healthy dose of fear can be a powerful catalyst for a longer-term affective response that can motivate action. As more and more Americans in particular are feeling worry, concern, and alarm, to use the Yale climate communication terms, it's important not to dismiss or pathologize these feelings, but rather to couple them with knowledge, a sense of efficacy, and opportunities for action. Thank you all so much.